Okay, well, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we are going to start off with a roll call. And I will let Anne explain how we're gonna go about that.
Thank you, Chair. So this is Anne, and instead of doing actual roll call, we haven't really done that so much since I started attending, so I don't know if that was the process before or not, but we thought, given that the official record of the meeting is the recordings, and so a member of the public who's listening isn't gonna know speaker one, speaker two, be able to tell the difference in voices, and also to assist the members in the room, if we can just make sure each time we have a meeting, instead of just calling a name, we'll actually introduce ourselves in an event to just make sure everybody knows where everyone is in the room. If that seems okay to everybody, then it'll also help with minutes as well. And it might take a little practice, but if we can remember when we each go to speak, if we say our name before we speak, I think that will help as well. We're going to practice this and see if this works for the recording and for our chairperson, and then modify as needed so that we can all have a successful meeting if that works for everybody.
I solemnly swear I will not accost anybody who forgets. Except for maybe Debbie.
We'll start with you as chair. You get to go first and introduce yourself. Thank you.
All right, so my name is Chair Kursovich, and I will pass it off to my left.
I'm Debbie Lane.
Melinda Reed, and just so you know, this is my last meeting. The commission has shifted board assignments, and Commissioner Logan will be taking over beginning next month.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matt Peterson. I'm with the City Attorney's Office.
David Knopke, Transportation for the city.
Mike Bassett, Vice Chair, Medical Professional Board Member.
Anne Pichette, Housing Coordinator and Committee Staff.
April Sparks, admin for the Community Development Department, and I'm just here to provide support. No, there's no one online at the moment.
Okay. Will you let me know if that changes, April?
Absolutely.
Just so I know that, make sure I include them.
Absolutely.
Perfect, thank you. So first agenda item is approving last meeting's minutes. Does anyone have any alterations or concerns before we entertain motions?
Nope.
Then does anyone want to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written?
Motion to approve minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Then our next agenda item will be I don't know how it's labeled on here. Complaints. Complaint report. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is Anne. Briefly, I'd like to give you an update on the past complaint status report, if that's all right, and then jump into the most recent complaint that was received since the last meeting. That's okay, Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. So quick update on the ADA golf cart status. As of Thursday, Parks Department received notice it has been shipped. So
Yay.
I don't know what the golfing status is right now based on frozen ground, snow not. So I don't know if they're allowing golfing out there right now, but I believe originally it was supposed to arrive sometime in late December. So I believe the plan was to have it ready to go with the process for spring. I don't know that once it arrives, it would necessarily be available before then based on snow status. But I can check with Parks again before our next meeting to make sure it actually came. But they had just received notice on Thursday that it had shipped. So it's on its way to the city of Helena. So that is very exciting. And then for the current complaint concern that we received, there was a report on the website, and April also has it up on the screen for anyone who wants to go through that. As a quick update, on December 15th, our office received a complaint about snow removal on the sidewalks on a very specific piece of property along Colonial Drive. As I investigated to get more information, the complaint did start branching out to a variety of so-called quote unquote others in the neighborhood. But the main actual complaint that we addressed as a city was the one related to a very specific property owner. This individual has made complaints about this property owner in the past and had concerns. As we investigated more, it got a little bit tricky because it turns out that one specific piece of property is not actually considered within the city limits. It is a piece of property surrounded by city property that has not been annexed in. So we really appreciate the work. We had to visit with a couple different departments and kind of figure out how this works, how this doesn't, where something would potentially, a complaint of this sort would be a code compliance issue where David's shop would follow their normal process, ask community members to file the complaints in a certain way, and it wouldn't necessarily be this. However, having come to the community development department, once we realized it's not a parcel where we would treat it the same as others, we've come up with a plan. Also in the process of talking about what the so-called quote unquote others in the neighborhood are, the individual gave some specifics that are privately owned, talked about some empty lots and other very generic things. So to help this community member, what we also did, thanks to Parks, was provide them with a highlighted map of the sidewalks that are adjacent to open space in the area. Not all of them are on actual Colonial Drive, but in that area, so that that individual would know if those specific sidewalks are not shoveled and the snow is not removed, that they would contact us directly, and that's different because that is city owned and that is our responsibility. And the Parks Department and Open Lands takes care of that. So I just wanted to give you all kind of the background on why it was maybe seemed a little convoluted, because it wasn't one specific area. It started as one specific area and then went into a lot of generalities. So the response to that complainant was very specific about which things need to go through code compliance, how to do those complaints, that the property first in question, it will be cleared, and the city will be making sure that that property owner is taking care of what they need to do. But then, like I said, in addition to that area, we did want to make sure that it was easy, because I think sometimes on maps and things, it's hard to tell, to make sure it was easy for this person to know which ones are the city's responsibility in front of the open space, even though it wasn't fully part of the complaint, just to make sure that they got good customer service and knew who to reach out to for those. So when it's in front of a property owned by someone else, then individuals in the community need to go through the process that's on our website and on Transportation's about how to file that. You can call, you can use the app. I don't know, David, if you have any other specific thoughts, but that was the one complaint we received between the last meeting and today's meeting.
Thank you, Ann. Do any of the committee members have any questions about the process and how it played out?
Well, this is Debbie. I'm still kind of confused. If a private person owns it, they can't do this way, they have to do it another way for an enforcement agent to go out and say you have to shovel your walk?
Suzanne, I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, you made it sound like they use this process only if it's the city of Helena that owns it. What if it's a private person? What are they supposed to do that owns it?
Thank you. This is Ann. So, say you're out in the community somewhere and you see or notice sidewalks are not shoveled and it's past is it called the snow clock? Time frame of there's a certain amount of time different areas have to clean the sidewalks following the end of snow. So on the EDA website and on transportations, there's a step-by-step process how a member of the public would go and report that sidewalk. So that is through the code enforcement. If it's the property in front of like the city parks, if it's sidewalks that the city's responsible for clearing the snow on, then that would follow. I mean, they can just make a phone call, but that would also be something that they could file an ADA complaint that would come to our office and then come to this committee if it's like the parks and it's not there, but.
Chair David Knopke. So you can still file a complaint through the My Helena app, whether it's city property or whatever. The code enforcement officer at the time will look, investigate, and say, okay, this is a private or this is a city. They typically do the same phone call that the private citizen would do to that department saying we received this complaint or forwarded in an email style. And then the other complaints would go through our process. So our app that we have out there, the My Helena app, has workflows behind it. So if it's snow removal or if it's parks or whatever, it goes to specific people. So those have been the specific people identified by the departments to best handle those and best to get them addressed in a efficient manner.
Does that answer your question?
Yep.
This is Chair Krisovich. I'm forgetting my own rules. I should be accosted. David Knopke, do those same workflows, just out of curiosity, do they exist on the website as well, or is that separate forms they have to complete, just out of curiosity, so I know how to advise people I'm asked in the future?
Chair David Knopke, I'm not sure the links that Anna was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Those workflows are only within the My Helena app.
Okay.
They are the processes that the staff follows outside of receiving an electronic, but yeah.
Okay. Then follow-up question for you, David. With the snow clock, just forgive my ignorance, I haven't looked, I need to go look. I know the rules behind it, but are they posted on the website too? Or how are community members supposed to know those rules?
So Chair David Knopke, so Know the Code is up there with the code enforcement and the snow clock.
Okay.
It explains the exact code section. And the snow clock, we stop it once the snow basically stops throughout, because sometimes it's snowing up here and not over there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little grace in that clock, just because we want to make sure that snow has stopped in all areas of Helena.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any more questions about that? Okay. I do have one, while we're on the subject matter, I do have one question for either Matt or David Knopke. Where do we stand on the code enforcement? I know there was some small minor hiccups on that. Was curious if we could get an update on that while we're on the subject matter.
Yeah, this is Matt Peterson, Chair. We are going to bring it back up to an admin meeting.
Okay.
There were some changes to the draft ordinance to kind of maintain some of the current penalties for offenses that were listed under the policing section.
Mm-hmm.
at the police department eventually surfaced for us. And so in response to that, we're going to maintain some of the current existing penalties as they are. And that also just kind of keeps it as solely enforceable by the police. And the time frame is, that's kind of up to the commission, but I believe we can probably get that back on early next month, end of this month.
Okay.
For a first reading.
And Chair Krasovich, Melinda Reed, I checked with the clerk quickly before this meeting in case that question was asked. We don't have a firm date, but she said she believed it was in the next 2 upcoming commission meetings. And as soon as we have a date, I can make sure Commissioner Logan shares that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Matt. And thank you guys for your diligent work on that. I know it was not a small task, and once I saw it on the last administrative meeting, I went through and looked at it, and it was quite lengthy, all the code you guys had to go through. So I want to thank you for your commitment to that. I know it was no small order. So it means a lot to my community. I have heard from lots of other individuals their excitement about the fact that there will be a process that has some teeth to it. So thank you. And do we have any more on that before we move on to?
Chair, I don't have anything else on that if nobody has any other questions.
We were going to discuss the committee resolutions. I'll open up to committee members first before I say what I have to say, but committee members, do you guys have a chance to review those resolutions that I kind of was confused by the email, which one of you guys sent it out, Ann or April? I thought I saw Ann at one point on the email and then April and below in a full signature.
And sometimes, this is April, and sometimes writes them and I just send them. So
That's what I was thinking. I was figuring that was the case, but okay. Does anyone on the committee have any thoughts or comments on it before I make mine?
Chair, this is Ann.
Yes.
If I could give a quick little info to the board first,
Yes.
that might affect comments.
Yes,
If
please.
that would be all right. For those of you who did go through and read the resolutions, I just want to make sure you noted our website, and then everything we sent out has all of the existing resolutions. However, if you go and read the very first one, the oldest one, that was what originally established the complaints process, the board, and then you will see that the subsequent one amended it by deleting it in its entirety and then restarting. So I just want to make sure everyone noted that it maybe is a little confusing, but because we have everything on our website and it's there for everybody, I didn't want to not share all of them, but really the earlier one, which is 10456, is not actually in effect anymore. That was from 1992. So I just want to make sure we don't follow that version necessarily. I mean, you can look at the content in it, but that is not what is currently the roles and responsibilities of the compliance committee. And so I hoped that wasn't too confusing and just wanted everyone to see the history that was there, but that's not the actual resolution that the committee is operating under right now, if that is helpful information. And then there was an amendment that ended up with the same resolution number 19473, which is our current one. And then that same number amended was the one that talked about term limits for boards. But the one that is the full content is really under which we operate right now. There is hard copies at the corner of the table for anyone who wants those. But I just want everyone to know that I did talk with the clerk's office, and what they have said is that there is a process that currently exists that has been established by the city commission and the clerk's office for how to go about reviewing any sort of scope responsibilities of any and all boards. And so they have their whole process and steps, but one of the really important things is to make sure that the board is supportive of a review to then move forward in the process. So potentially this discussion would come back because one of their steps after their staff review, legal review, there's a whole process. One of those steps is working with the board and the board's desire for a review. So some of the things we talk about today may end up being another meeting's agenda item to make sure that we as a committee are also following the process that the commission has set out for their review. Commissioner Reed might be able to speak more to that, but I just want to make sure you know that if we can kind of keep this to the scope of what's here, thoughts on that, know that you may have a need to have this discussion again because of the process to make sure that board members are involved, boards are involved, because this isn't the only committee or advisory board that might be going through this process. So to make sure the public has all of their opportunity for any discussion as well. But I wanted to let you know that there is an actual process for the review, and it does involve board and board members, but also, as I mentioned, part of it is whether or not there's the desire from a board and whether boards are supportive of that process. So we can have a discussion about, like, maybe we just take a moment and review the resolution as if we were having new member orientation, because we have some new members. We haven't really done one of those. And then sort of a general purpose discussion, knowing that, I don't want to take more of your all's time, but it may be that this discussion needs to come up again as part of that process to make sure that all the public has their chance to be part of that. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for that information. This is Chair Krusovich. That explanation really does help. And I'm glad that you decided to include the other amendments and the original version, because it did show how, part of my degree is political science, so I'm kind of nerdy in this way, but it did show the progression, how the committee's changed, which has changed far more than I realized. So it is interesting. In regards to this, I like your idea of going through it real quick as kind of like a orientation for new members such as Mike. With that, I guess two things. One, I would like to pay particular attention to section 9, because I think it does answer our question that we had last time. But, Anne, how would you suggest we go about that? How have you guys, or April, how have you guys gone about that in the past?
Chair Krusovich, this is Anne. This is my first board going through this. So I think your plan sounds like a great place to start. And I would let Commissioner Reed share her thoughts, as she may have gone through this process and review with other boards, or potentially Matt, who's here in the room, maybe can as well. And I think I would just like to clarify that by section 9, on what you're talking about, maybe section 3H, maybe, that talks about
Very flexible. The PDF I received I went off of the one that was emailed, not the one off the website, just
Okay.
because I was in a time crunch.
Likely section 1H.
I had to make the PDF accessible. The ones on the website are, but the
Okay,
one I received was an image, and so I used my software just to make it accessible because it took 2 seconds and I was under a time crunch. So that may have mislabeled the sections.
and this
So-
is Anne, and that's okay. I just want to make sure that
Oh.
it's potentially
I'm-
starting with the ADA Compliance Committee will act as an advisory committee to assist in determination of reasonable accommodations, and then starts listing out a variety of other duties.
Yes.
Okay, so that's on the very last page. For people who are looking at the paper copies, I just want to make sure that
No, I appreciate
you're
it.
there, and then I would defer to you to go ahead and start as you proposed.
I just would like, would it be, this is Chair Krisovich, and would you feel comfortable reading that? I don't have it. Just that one little snippet that lists the responsibilities of the committee there.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is Anne. For everyone online and in the room, the section before lists out the compilation of the board.
Section 3.
And how it's comprised and who is appointed by their expertise in the community. And then the next section, which is H3 on page 4, says the ADA Compliance Committee will act as an advisory committee to assist in determination of reasonable accommodations. The committee may review requests for reconsideration of complaints forwarded by the ADA coordinator, may make determinations as to the validity of complaints, and may provide descriptions of the resolution of those grievances that have been appealed. The committee may recommend priorities for making structural changes to public facilities, offer suggestions on how to achieve program accessibility, and review and make recommendations on employment practices and accommodations for compliance. And then it just says when it was passed in 2007.
Perfect. That is precisely what I was looking for. Thank you, Ann. So this is Chair Krisovich. That to refresh people who it's been a month, over a month since our last meeting. What the question that was proposed was whether or not this committee was strictly just complaint driven, or if it was also, if we could adapt it, be an advisory committee. So that section speaks to that matter. And I just wanted to see if, that answers your guys' questions. If you have comments on whether or not you think that's an acceptable answer, and then I can provide mine, but I just don't want to change anybody's opinion.
Chair Krisovich, this is a question for our city attorney. I don't know if section 3, because it begins with, discussing reasonable accommodations, and then the last sentence does say recommend priorities for structural changes to public facilities. Is that tied to reasonable accommodations and complaints, or is it separated? In your opinion?
These all look like, related, but so are you kind of asking, sorry, this is Matt Peterson, speaking. Are you asking if advisory committee kind of everything else should be viewed in light of that?
I'm asking if, based on Chair Krisovich's question, could we take that last sentence as giving the existing committee and its existing documents the authority, strong word, to make advisory recommendations on things like curb cuts? Or is it only in relation to reasonable accommodation or a complaint, or is it sort of a broad advisory?
No, it seems to be, advisory on reasonable accommodation, review appeals,
Okay.
Recommend those structural changes and how to achieve accessibility and on city employment practices.
Thank you.
So clarification, this is Chair Krisovich, clarification, Matt. So you are saying that that phrase there, that section is saying that we can make those recommendations in context of reasonable accommodations, not separate in terms of how the city's, we couldn't make a recommendation about how the city is approaching curb cuts in this, with sidewalks and things of that matter, correct? That's the hang up. That's where we're trying to figure out is that a separate clause, or is that all under the umbrella of just reasonable accommodations?
This is Matt Peterson. I think it's all under the umbrella of the kind of the purpose of the committee as enacted. So it's not suggesting structural things on an engineering basis, I would say, or, an aesthetic basis. It's about, serving the ADA community. So making reasonable accommodations is, a mandate. And these recommendations need to be made in light of it. That's kind of like what you've been, the power delegated from the city commission is to make these, to be a review body on the complaints. And then to provide advice or recommendations on things related to ADA concerns. So is there anything more specific, like an example or a hypothetical? I know attorneys often don't like hypothetical. One could be illuminating.
Chair Krzyzewicz, if I might,
Yes,
this is a
Commissioner Reed.
specific case that just came up that Director Knopke will know from just the other night. In general, the city has, we were working through ADA ramps.
Sure.
We have a backlog.
Yeah.
We received funding. We were doing a bid award. So Deputy Director Cooey said this was not an ADA issue.
Mhm.
It was, he phrased it somehow. But my question would be, under this current resolution, in the event of another bid award to address another backlog of ADA ramps, would it be appropriate for this committee to make recommendations on where they are most needed?
Yeah.
For ADA accessibility issues across the city? Or is that beyond the scope?
So this is Matt Peterson, just reading the committee may recommend priorities for making structural changes to public facilities. So yes, so you as a committee may make recommendations on where that money should be spent first.
Thank you.
Chair?
Yes.
This is David Knopke. So just to put in frame for the bid award,
Mhm.
those ADA ramps are required by the federal government. So when we put asphalt down, so for our mill and overlay program, that was the reason why those ADA ramps were awarded as the ADA ramp project, because in order for us to do street maintenance and mill and then put new asphalt, we have to bring up the adjacent ADA ramps up to current standard. And that's what that bid award was for. It wasn't just a ADA ramp project that we decided to put ramps here and there. It was in conjunction with another maintenance project that we're required to improve those ADA ramps.
But Chair Krzyzewicz, if I might, and Director
Yes.
Knopke, on this project, that makes sense and I understand it, but previously we had done some that were just ADA ramps in part of the downtown corridor. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, so in previous years, we did like a downtown ADA ramp
Right.
project.
Okay.
And that encompassed what was downtown. We have a 6th ward, which was given to us as a priority. Part of the issue with this, Chair, is the streets. We can do the ramps, but sometimes there's no sidewalks. So a struggle for us is not putting in the ramp, but we put in a ramp on one side of the street, but there's no accepting ramp on the other because there's no sidewalks for that property across the street. So one of the big challenges that I see the city having in the future is how do we tackle the sidewalk issue? Because that along with improperly constructed ramps from the past or those provide that creates those barriers for certain folks of our community, and not just the disabled, but even the kids that walk back and forth to school and the able-bodied adults that want to take a walk at night. Without sidewalks, that creates that barrier. And so how do we tackle that big thing along with the ramps in a strategic way? One of the ways that we talked about it in the sidewalk summits was to start at the schools and move our way out.
Yes.
So the most recent TA project that we were awarded through the MPO was to start at the schools with those ramps and start moving our way out. Unfortunately, the schools are all scattered, so it will take some time for those circular improvements to start overlapping and start making a connective network. So just like we did 6th Avenue a couple of years ago, improved all those ramps, that doesn't mean that the sidewalks between the ramps are 100% compliant.
Just to close the loop, Chair Krzyzewicz, Melinda Reed again, but there might be times in the future, and if I'm understanding correctly from the city attorney, there might be times when it is just an ADA project where this committee could meaningfully make a recommendation, and that would make sense where it's not tied to an existing mill and overlay. Correct?
Correct. We've always done that, though. Former members of this community, Joe Peden, made a comment on Saddle and Bellevue, and we got those improved through the same process. So it hasn't fallen on deaf ears.
Chair Krzyzewicz, this is Ann.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering, I don't want to get us too far off the agenda with my question, so I do apologize. We can move it to later, but I'm wondering if, especially since Director Konopky comes to so many meetings or is at least available virtually, if potentially getting back into having short discussions or reports from departments might help with this sort of process, because then the committee would know very far in advance when something like that is a potential project that's coming up or discussion, so that the committee's not making comments on something that already happened, because we would have Director Konopky letting us know when there's maybe a grant being written or something. So there would be a lot of advance notice, and we're not trying to change something that the department has already put in, like a 5-year plan for road projects. Is that something that we can talk about later? But in the past, there's been different departments that come to these meetings periodically, like parks, transportation, on a rotating basis. It seems that might be an opportunity to
I had one in my ear for a reason earlier. Chair Krzyzewicz here. I would agree with that. I would like to propose it to the rest of the community for their opinions on that. David Konopky and Commissioner Reed, thank you guys for your exchange there. It was illuminating in terms of what happened in that situation. And before we move, I don't want to drill into that too much right now, because we're talking about the responsibilities of the committee. But if possible, I would like to add to the next meeting's agenda, maybe talking about Colonial Drive a little bit more, so that the committee members can learn about that process, as opposed to when other ADA projects come up where we're doing just curb cuts. Would you be agreeable to that, David?
Jared, that's fine. Like I said, we've had sidewalk summits in the past and kind of had a direction moving forward, but if there's specific concerns in the community, that we'd be happy to hear those and put them on the list. And even if we have a project close by, we can sometimes make it happen sooner than later.
Thank you, David. And I do want to thank you for I can't remember if you guys did a sidewalk summit last summer or not, but I did attend the one 2 years ago. You guys were very proactive about reaching out to the community. So thank you for reaching out to the disabled community, make sure everybody was involved in that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Would the committee members be agreeable to doing a rotating schedule with the different departments coming and doing reports, kind of like we have, Mike, in the past? For instance, last year, was it last year? Was that 2 years ago? It blurs now. We had different departments coming, like the Parks and Rec, and other departments coming and giving reports about what they're working on, asking for input, things like that. So is that something you guys would be interested in?
Mike Bassett. Yep, I think that's a great idea. I think it encourages departments to be thinking about it ahead of time, knowing that they might have to come and just get us up to speed on what they're working on and that kind of stuff. And then we don't find ourselves in the middle of a long-term project. And, now they're getting guidance from this committee. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Commissioner Reed, do you have any thoughts on that before we move on? I know you're leaving soon.
Since this is my last one, I think it's a good idea. I thought it was helpful over the last couple of years that I've been on here to hear those updates. So I would say yes.
And then I would love to work with you with scheduling that type of stuff going forward. That'd be okay?
Thank you, Chair. That would be great. We'll work on setting the agendas.
Fantastic.
And I do apologize for throwing that in the middle of the discussion of the resolution, but just wanted to remind people that was something we had been doing, and that might help in this discussion of roles and responsibilities and how we can be more advisory. So,
okay.
Sorry for
no, you're fine.
Your first agenda.
All right, this is Chair Krisovich. Now that we've wrapped that part up, circling back to the responsibilities of this committee, that mass interpretation was 100% how I was feeling about when I read it, but I'm glad that Commissioner Reed asked follow-up questions just to make sure that was very clear, because then it got muddled again in my head when we were talking about it. So does anybody have any questions or concerns about Matt's explanation? Does anyone feel as though we need to continue down this road of looking at if we have those, if we need to expand this, or if we feel like, I guess, do we feel that our responsibilities are appropriate for this committee in terms of our advisory capacities?
This is Debbie. I think as long as his interpretation is in the minutes very clearly, that I'm good with it.
Mike Bassett, I agree.
Chair Krisovich, I also agree with that. I do think that this encapsulates what we were looking for, so I don't think there's need. And to go into that whole process that you were proposing, it sounds like everybody agrees. Commissioner Reed, I mean, your last parting opinion on it since you're leaving us.
Thank you, Chair Krisovich. If it works for the committee, then I think that's great. And I think knowing that there is a process, should you wish to revisit down the road, that's super helpful. And maybe at some point, the clerk's office can either provide in writing or explain what that process, sort of lay it out so you can consider it if it's something you want down the road. I think it's really helpful.
All right. And then I believe I locked my phone because it was yelling at me. And the next part was just public comment, correct?
Chair, that's correct. This is Ann.
So Chair Krisovich, do we have any public comment? There's still nobody online, April?
So this is April. We do have a staff member online, Director Leland, Public Works, but I don't see any hands raised for public comment.
Are there any agenda items that anybody would like to add next time besides a presentation from one of the departments, as well as a brief discussion with David Konupke about ADA projects in the future.
And code enforcement, I think we
Code
need to
enforcement.
talk about that again.
That's a great one, Debbie. So could we add an update on code enforcement, please? And then I do have one agenda item that I would like to add. I have so much going through my brain right now, with other things that I can't remember exactly if it was Parks and Rec. I don't think it would have been you, David, that showed us a spreadsheet of all the projects. It was quite lengthy, of things they had to correct within the next few years. Do you know what I'm talking
Chair
about?
Krasovich,
Yes.
this is Ann. That would be the potentially the list that was the transition plan.
Yes.
That was the city's plan over a 10-year period.
Yes.
Yes. We can have a discussion about that. If you'd like, I can add that on there. And just to confirm, we've got transition plan. We will go back to having departments listed on there. And if we're already having a discussion with Director Konopke, I'm wondering, Director Konopke, can we just make you the March department report?
Yeah.
Would that be all right? Is that all right with you, Chair?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then we won't be doubling up on departments unless one of the departments has something they do want to share a report. Fingers crossed, March, we will be reporting that Parks has a golf cart. So I mean, there will be that potentially. And then potentially for the March meeting, we will have an update on either when code enforcement is coming before the commission, or it will have already come potentially at the end of February. It sounds like maybe in one of the next couple meetings of the city commission, it probably will come before the St. Patrick's Day meeting. But if it is helpful, chair and committee members, once I see that on an agenda, I can send you out a little tickler email if that is also helpful, so you don't always have to scour the agendas.
Sure.
For commission meetings. If people would like that, I'm happy to watch for that.
I would very much appreciate
Okay.
that.
And then the only other thing I would like to mention, Chair, if it's
Yes.
all right with you, is we do have some openings on the committee.
Yes.
You may or may not have read the news that one of our newest members on this committee is not here today because that member was just made our incoming new city manager.
Oh, okay.
So, Manager Lake, then she starts, I believe, next Monday, if I remember correctly, the 26th. Please don't quote me on that.
I believe it's the 27th.
27th.
And I received an email saying she will be available after the 26th, which indicates 27th to me.
Thank you, Commissioner. I could not remember the exact date, but I did want the committee to know that she did send in her resignation to the clerk, as she won't be able to stay on this committee. So we are now back to, I believe, 3 open slots on this committee. So please, if you hear people in the community who are interested, they can go on to the board's website, connect with the city clerk to find out how to apply and be part of that process, what the requirements are. I think you had
This is April. I can let you know. The vacancies we have, one is for a member of the disabled community. One is for a member of the architecture or construction community. And then the other one is a citizen at large.
Thank you.
So those are the 3 positions that are open. So if you know of anyone in any of those, encourage them to apply.
This is Chair Krasovich. Thank you. April, you read my mind. I was going to ask for that clarification, so thank you. And do you have anything else?
Chair Krasovich, this is Ann. I do not have anything else. I'll connect with you put together the next agenda with those items if there aren't any others from the committee. Other suggestions, sorry, if there aren't any other suggestions from the committee for the next agenda, and then we can connect and start planning out the next couple of meetings to get on director's schedules, if that's your desire.
Sounds perfect.
Chair Krzyzewicz, I just want to say thank you to all of you. It's been a pleasure serving on this committee, and I will look forward to updates at the commission going forward. But good luck with all the work and the code enforcement piece. Again, thank you to all the staff who's worked on this in the city attorney's office. I am very much looking forward to being able to vote on that soon.
Well, then, thank you, Commissioner Reed, for serving and on the committee, and I guess meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.